Hello, Saints. Welcome in for another edition of the midweek video. I heard something on the radio that got me to thinking about our encountering difficulties and challenges. Now, you say, you sure talk about that a lot. Well, that's because there's so many voices out there saying that if you're a Christian, you won't have any difficulties and challenges. And not only is that a lie, it's very unfortunate because some people begin to believe that and then they get frustrated when they run into obstacles and challenges and trials. And so what I thought about was I asked myself the question, what is it that gets us through these times? What is it that gets us through? And it could be you didn't get the promotion at a job that you thought you were going to get. It could be that your boss said he's giving you a raise and he didn't give you as big a raise as you thought. It could be larger. It could be a diagnosis from a doctor that causes you stress. It could be a relationship that's gone awry. It could be, the list goes on. Whatever situations, all of us who've lived any amount of time understand that sometimes we face situations in life that cause us to be concerned and can cause us to question our faith. It can cause us to make decisions that we shouldn't make. I'll just give you a piece of advice that I heard indirectly from Pastor Charles Green many years ago, and that is, don't make a permanent mistake in a temporary land. Sometimes we're in a temporary land of challenge, difficulty, stress, pressure, and we make decisions in that temporary place because we know it's temporary, and yet they have permanent implications for our lives. Be careful that you don't make a permanent mistake in a temporary land. I was reading this morning the newsletter from Charlene and Enrique Meja in Costa Rica, Hidden Treasures Children's Home, and she started off by quoting our brother Jim Newsom, who recently went home to be with the Lord. And Jim said, God hides some of our greatest treasures in the darkest circumstances and situations of our lives. Sometimes we've missed a great blessing from God when we've tried to avoid the situations that He plants in front of us. But I'm back to the question: how do we navigate these times? How is it that Paul says in Ephesians 6, stand? When you've done everything you can do, stand. And the issue is not whether or not our challenges go away or diminish or any number of possibilities. The issue is, when it's all said and done, are we still standing? Are we still there? Brother Charles Simpson preached a message one time about how that Peter was at the trial of Jesus and that he was denying Jesus. And he pointed out that while Peter was denying Jesus and was cursing, other than John, no one else was there. None of the other disciples were there. And so Brother Charles said, you can say what you want to about Peter, he was there. When the trial comes, when the difficulty challenges us, and when it's done, are we still there in our faith and in our walk with Jesus Christ? I think one of the things we have to do, or the first thing we have to do, if we're going to be victorious and win through the challenge, is we have to put our total trust in the Lord. Now, that sounds generic, and I'm going to give us a little more practical things, but at the end of the day, I have to believe that God is bigger than my situation. God is bigger than my difficulty. I have to believe that I put my trust in Him. He knows what's going on. He knows better than I do. His hand is working. Remember, Proverbs 3 says, trust in the Lord with all of your heart and don't lean on your own understanding. In other words, don't try to always figure it out yourself. Don't always try to figure out what's going on and how to fix it. Now, there are things we need to do, but trust in the Lord Trust that he has you in the palm of his hand. You say, well, it sure doesn't feel like it. Well, it may not, but, excuse me, scam likely. But at the end of the day, God knows, and we know that God knows our path, our walk. And we have to put our trust in him. Remember, Romans 8:28 says, all things work together for the good. And our brother, Pastor James Hambrick, pointed out recently that to finish that verse, you have to say, those who love God and are called according to his purpose. In other words, that verse doesn't apply to everyone. It only applies to those who love God and are called according to his purpose. But God works all things. And, sometimes we have to find our all things. And our all things can be something we might not want, but God takes them and works them to our good. And we don't see that initially. That doesn't happen right when we see the difficulty. That happens later on when he works it for our good. The second thing we have to do is that we have to not only trust God, but we have to believe that the power of the Holy Spirit is going to enable us, give us the ability to make it through to the other side, to not allow whatever we're facing, not allow whatever we're dealing with to derail us in our faith or to cause us to dilute our faith. Remember Paul's thorn in the flesh, 2 Corinthians 12, and he says that, there was a messenger of Satan sent to buffet me, to irritate me. And he prayed several times for God to remove that thorn. And finally, God told him, you can quit praying that prayer because my grace is sufficient for you in the midst of this. And so Paul gained his victory by leaning on the power of the Holy Spirit through the grace of God. And whatever you're going through or whatever you will go through, it will be the power of the Holy Spirit through the grace of God that will enable you to continue on. God did not remove that messenger of Satan from Paul, but he gave Paul the grace to go through. And of course, lastly, I thought, well, one of the ingredients, for lack of a better term, for our getting through the difficulty is understanding that a twofold cord is good, a threefold cord is not quickly broken. And of course, that's from Ecclesiastes 4. And that is that we lean on our brothers and sisters. We have people around us who walk with us. Ecclesiastes talks about that it's not good to be alone. And when God said in the Garden of Eden, it's not good that man is alone, it was primarily intended to give him the avenue to gain Eve. But the principle always applies. It's not good for man to be alone. And we're talking about more than just going to church, although I highly recommend that. We're talking about more than just seeing people on a Sunday morning and seeing the back of their head. We're talking about people who can walk beside you, who can walk with you, people who will tell you the truth, people who will pray for you, stand with you, and encourage you and strengthen you. Threefold cord's not quickly broken. If you're standing together with other brothers and sisters, you can make it through whatever you are facing. At the end of the day, at the end of the journey, at the end of whatever pressurized situation we're in, let us be those who are standing. Let us be those who are standing firmly in our faith in God, firmly in our trust that He knows best, and the outcome will be what benefits Him and us and will be a blessing to us. And I'll read Jim's quote again, and then we'll close the video. God hides some of our greatest treasures in the darkest circumstances and situations of our lives. Watch for God's treasures. Now go out there and act like somebody. Good day.